Panophobia is about a mysterious girl who awakens alone in a realm with bizarre and grotesque creatures. Without knowing who she is and how she got there, she must fight against the madness and despair that plagues this world as she attempts to escape. Panophobia is a 2D side-scrolling action stealth eroge horror game that focuses on the Ryona aspect. Ryona is a term from Japanese culture commonly used in anime, manga, and video games. It refers to a genre or theme that involves a depiction of violence, abuse, or harm being inflicted on female characters, typically in a non-consensual and often graphic manner. The word Ryona is derived from two Japanese terms, Ryoki, meaning bizarre or grotesque, and Onna, meaning woman. Every step you take pulls you deeper into a labyrinth of fear, and there's no guarantee you'll make it out. With each choice, the game forces you to confront something terrifying. In Panophobia, we are a nameless schoolgirl that wakes up in a desolate world filled with monsters. Our main character suffers from the overwhelming and paralyzing fear known as Panophobia. This isn't just a fear of one thing, it's a fear of everything. Imagine living in a constant state of anxiety where every shadow could hide a threat and every sound is a potential danger. This fear has no specific focus. It's a persistent sense of dread that makes even the simplest tasks feel impossible. For our protagonist, Panophobia is more than just a fear. It's a haunting presence that follows her, coloring every moment with a sense of impending doom. Developed by Blackstain, Panophobia was released sometime in 2019. It is a continuation of his other well-known game, Hospital of the Dead. The game starts with our heroine asleep on the floor of what seems to be a prison facility. However, she is not alone. You have to help her escape from different creatures that will try to assault her if they get too close. There are 5 levels in the game: a prison facility, a graveyard, an abandoned building, a school, and a hospital. Each level of the game has different enemies, and at the end of each level there is a boss. However, since our heroine is rather defenseless and cannot fight back, you have to solve different puzzles to trap or get away from said bosses. Once the heroine escapes the boss of the prison facility, she then enters a room with a screen and a strange woman on it who says, "It's cold. It must be you who came to see me here, because I don't even want to see your face. That time, I wonder how you looked through my eyes. Just a little more and everything would have been the way it was. Oh, I long for those days. You only fail again anyways." After escaping the prison monster for a second time, our heroine is now at a graveyard. And from here on out, from the beginning of a new level, we will have a dialogue that tells us a little bit more about the story. In the beginning of this level, it says, "Kill all of them, every last one. Destroy everything, all of this rotten world, every last thing." As the heroine makes her way through the graveyard, she picks up a note that says, "You are probably the only one left in this world who would read this. You have no memory, you don't know who you are, you don't know where this is. None of that really matters. You just come and see me." The dialogue that shows in the beginning of the abandoned building says, "In the unbearable pain, as I felt like breaking down, something was born inside of me. Those things, in exchange for taking the pain and suffering onto themselves, started to multiply like a virus. Soon, they created a cruel, ugly world. And even in this very moment, several vile things are being born, and this world keeps spreading. It's as if the rotten world in front of me was my own soul." So, at this point, we are pretty much a little over halfway of the game, and based on the last text of the dialogue, we can assume that the creatures in the world before the heroine were created through her suffering and despair, which led her to being quite literally afraid of everything, hence the name, Panophobia. The dialogue in the academy says, "If I continue to break, will those ugly things replace me, just like before? I can't let that happen, so if I must create a replacement, someone strong, kind, someone that person would love, a perfect me." The very last dialogue from the hospital says, "Everyone is always afraid of something. I'm afraid of every and all things. That's why I keep running from pain, fear, despair. and from myself as well. I will keep creating until the girl who will surely replace me comes to this place. Once you collect 3 keys in the hospital, the heroine opens a strange white door with chains. Once she enters the room is all white with a girl sitting in a chair and with a desk and the screen which appears to be the same screen that we once saw in the prison facility. The desk has a note on it that reads, September 4th, his alcoholic tendencies were horrible, and since he lost his job, my father started to use violence towards me. He was drunk again today, shouting and hitting my mother. My mother was crying as she went back to doing chores. I don't care what he does. I will not allow him to hurt my mother. Could I just kill this man? September 20th, his violent acts escalated daily, and as I took the beating instead to protect my mother, she looked at me in an expression I've never seen. Oh, it's so beautiful. What a wonderful expression. I want to stare at that expression on her forever. October 24th. In my effort to see that expression from my mother, I stayed silent while my father beat me, but I was at my limit as my body was screaming in pain. However, one day suddenly, the suffering and pain were gone like they were never there. It seems like things that I kept seeing in my dreams took the pain from me on themselves. It's annoying that my memory skips sometimes, but I'll let that slide. November 2nd. Is this the price I pay for running from my pains? Or is it just the product of my own deserted mind? The beings that keep multiplying inside me are no longer human form and started killing each other in this world of mine. And of all things, some of the scums are having their own way with my body. Don't sit in that chair. That chair is mine. I must lock it tight so they can't get close. November 13th. My mother strenuously persuaded him, and as a result, my father stopped drinking and stopped beating me as well. I was the happiest in my whole life before this happened. My mother is with him all the time now, and she won't even look at me. I didn't kill him because he was of use, but now his existence is a nuisance. He is out now to look for a job. When he comes back, I'll kill him. I killed him, and my mother blamed me. I made her cry, she pushed me away and said not to come close. She hates me. My mother was all that's important to me. Now seeing my mother's terrified face, I finally realized. When I was being abused back then, she wasn't looking at me feeling worried, but trembling in fear seeing me with a vulgar smile looking at her expression, while getting beat again and again. When I came to the realization, my mind went black and I escaped this world. Date unknown. When I knew I could never be together with my mother, my heart was filled with a feeling of despair. I was being swallowed by an uncontrollable emotion, and everything went white. I have to protect my mother, that's right. If I'm not me, she might embrace me. She will embrace me. I have to create a new me to replace myself. No matter how many I create, it fails. Like idiots, they get caught by them, get and killed. I want to destroy this whole disgusting world. Useless. The invasion of my emotions won't stop. I don't have much time left. This will most likely be the last one. I think it's done well, but my mind isn't straight anymore. All's left now is to pray that you will come here. If you could make it here safe, kill me and live my life, and replace me to be by my mother's side. I'm glad you made it. No, this isn't the me I wish for. I tried over and over again, and I thought it finally worked right. How could this monster come to me? I guess you were just something that was born out of me. In other words, the heroine that we have seen throughout the story is just a clone created by the girl in the chair that she hoped would be the perfect version of her that her mother would love. But we can see that she is not perfect at all, and that she is just a monster. She kills the past version of herself and sits in that same chair. So, given all this, it's a bit hard to follow, so I will now explain the story in simple terms. The first part of the story suggests that the protagonist, or you as the player, has no memory of who they are or where they are, but they are urged to keep moving forward and find someone important. This hints that the story involves uncovering a lost identity and figuring out why everything is happening. The next dialogue reveals that the world the heroine finds herself in is a reflection of her inner suffering. Her immense pain and despair have manifested into a cruel, ugly world filled with vile creatures. These creatures are born from her own psychological torment, making the environment a literal representation of her fear and trauma. This ties into the game's title, Panophobia, which means a fear of everything. The heroine's suffering has made her afraid of the entire world. The dialogue in the academy shows that the heroine is afraid of being completely consumed by her pain, to the point that it will replace her with something else. Something monstrous. She desperately wants to create a perfect version of herself, one that is strong and kind, and whom others, possibly her mother, would love. The hospital dialogue reflects the heroine's overwhelming fear of everything, including herself. She feels that she is constantly running away from pain, fear, and despair. This suggests that she has been trying to escape her trauma by creating new versions of herself, but none of them seem to be able to replace her properly. The entries on the desk are diary notes revealing the heroine's past. She suffered abuse at the hands of her alcoholic father, and her attempts to protect her mother were met with indifference. Over time, her suffering led to a mental breakdown. She found disturbing satisfaction in seeing her mother's reactions, which warped her sense of self and caused her to retreat into her own mind. She felt the need to create replacements of herself as her mind fragmented under the weight of her trauma. At some point, she realizes that her mother feared her, not her father, which causes her to descend further into despair. She kills her father, hoping it will improve her relationship with her mother, but it only makes things worse. Her mother blames her, leading to an even deeper sense of loss and hopelessness. In her broken state, the heroine begins trying to create new versions of herself, hoping that one will be strong enough to replace her and be loved by her mother. But every attempt fails. The monsters she creates are reflections of her emotional turmoil. She wants to destroy the world because it represents her own suffering. In the final scene, the heroine's last creation, the you or the protagonist, comes to her, but she realizes it's not the perfect replacement she hoped for. The protagonist is just another creation born from her trauma, not the person who can take over her life and fix her broken relationship with her mother. She realizes her efforts have failed and that she has been creating monsters instead of a version of herself that could heal her pain. In short, the story explores how intense trauma can warp a person's mind, leading them to harmful coping mechanisms that ultimately fail. The heroine's fear, self-hatred, and longing for love and acceptance from her mother have created a distorted, nightmarish world that she cannot escape. Thank you so much to those of you who got to the end of this video. Breaking down this game was interesting for me because at first I found it confusing, and most people probably don't care to break down the story anyway because they just see it as fat material. So I want to make more videos like this explaining the stories of games that have Eroge or even Riona in it, so I do hope that you guys stay tuned for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let's chat. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious and keep hopping along with me. Bye!